All right, everyone, we are here with a very special guest. We are joined by the one and only Kenny Ortega, director, choreographer, producer of some of our favorite movies. We are so excited to talk to you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, both of you.
This is a highlight for us because
Huge highlight.
You're an absolute legend, and we are that age of like those Disney movies, you know, High School Musical, Cheetah Girls 2, all of those ones that we were so obsessed with. And now you're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Descendants, which, I mean, time flies. Can you believe it's been 10 years since the premiere?
No. No. I stay in touch with all the kids. They stay in touch with me, following their careers, you know, run into them every once in a while in person. I've been working with the Boyce Foundation now for all of these years, and it just my grandmother used to say, time flies when you're having a good time.
Yeah,
And you learn that.
That is very, very true. It's super exciting. You know, the Descendants has such a loyal fan base. People are obsessed. How are you celebrating this 10-year anniversary?
Honestly, just to remember Cameron and what he meant to all of us, to Sophia, to Dove, to Boo Boo, to Mitchell, to everyone behind the camera, in front of the camera. He was so beloved. You know, when he walked into a room, it was like the light got brighter. He was our muse. And so, you know, standing behind the goals of the Boyce Foundation, keeping Cameron's living legacy, you know, moving forward to find a cure for epilepsy and all those other wonderful things that the foundation, you know, gets behind and supports.
Yeah. I love watching the clips that you have been posting on Instagram of, you know, rehearsal time and all these moments where we especially get to see him shine in some of those moments that we haven't seen. How's it been watching those memories back?
Just reminding me, a gentle reminder, that he was just the most generous, you know, aspirational young man. He just was hungry to learn and to participate and serve. You know, he was building wells for impoverished communities and in the mirror with dancers that were having a rough time figuring something out. And just whatever he could do to jump in and help things progress, people progress, ideas progress. He loved workshopping with me. You know, at the beginning of all three Descendants, rather than jumping right into severe rehearsals, we partied, we played. And he loved that part of creation. A real special human being.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to see that you guys are still finding ways to honor him, and especially with this 10-year anniversary. How are there ways that, you know, people who are big fans can help the Boyce Foundation?
So much, Rhea. Thank you for asking that question. The foundation, you know, accepts funding, and it really is. It's serving the science and medical research for, you know, trying to end SUDEP, which is the sudden unexpected death due to this horrible disease, and then also, you know, supporting foundations that are empowering young people and young people making good choices and having bright futures, and gun reform laws. And I mean, so yeah, look it up. The Boyce Foundation, it's online. You can find it. Victor and Libby and Maya, his sister and mom and dad, are running it. And there's Dove and Sophia and Boo Boo and I and all of us from Descendants are a big part of it. And anything you can donate to that, you know, helps Cameron's legacy.
Absolutely.
You mentioned those other cast members. What are conversations like with them these days? You said you do get to keep in touch, or you see them at events and whatnot. What's it been like watching their careers grow over these last 10 years? Because we've just seen them skyrocket these amazing movies and projects that they're doing. It's awesome.
I mean, I'm so happy for Dove's music career. Yeah! You know, she's out there now, and I know living it up, loving it. Actually, I hear she's taking a break. And Sophia has done huge work, you know, for Netflix, and Netflix, really
She's got
successful.
a new one coming out soon, too.
Yeah, and she couldn't be more beautiful. And every gown and every photo session that she's doing. And Boo Boo's now, you know, a really celebrated artist. I don't know if you're familiar with his artwork, but it's extraordinary. martial artist,
Yeah.
stuntman, actor, dancer, singer, another just, quadruple threat individual boo-boo and making movies. And all of them, they're all doing well. Mitchell Cannell is back in Australia. Mitchell Hope is back in Australia working. And I hear China Anne McClain is in the new Descendants 4 and 5. They're all, and I keep in touch with them. And sometimes it's only just, I love you, I miss you, or congratulations.
Right.
But we do keep in touch.
Yeah, it's so nice.
You've worked with so many talented kids turn adults into these amazing superstar careers. And we have been such a fan, we told you, of all the movies and High School Musical and Cheetah Girls. I mean, we want to take it back to High School Musical.
Sure.
That was such a phenomenon, director and choreographer. Did you realize that you struck gold with that first movie?
I had been a part of Striking Gold before, and so I kind of knew what might be present if it was going to happen again. When we did Dirty Dancing, we were up on a mountaintop, away from everybody, away from the world, up on the Blue Ridge Mountains. Patrick and Jennifer and Cynthia, and Emil Ardolino, our incredible director, and Eleanor Bergstein, our writer. No cell phones, no communicating with anybody in the world. And we were just lost up there in the mountains, and we had very little money and very little time. And I remembered a day that we were shooting and thought, I hope that the world gets to see this. And then it opened this big, and then the next week it went further, and then the next week it went further. And back then, word of mouth actually could keep a movie in theaters. Now, I mean, if it's not working, it's out before you know it. High School Musical, we were shooting the finale. We're all in this together. We were in the gym, cameras everywhere, lights everywhere, dancers, cheerleaders, basketball players, the cast. And I called action, and the choreography started up, and I kind of looked at it, and I thought, my God, if Disney's marketing gets the word out there, these kids' lives are going to change. I know what this is. I know what this can do, and it did.
And that it did. I remember the previews leading up to the premiere of High School Musical, the movie not being out yet, and me already being obsessed with what the idea could have been.
Isn't that great?
It's crazy to think about. I remember exactly where I was in my basement being like, I don't know what this movie is, but I know that I'm going to love it. Yeah. And then you come back for a second one. How big was that change? Because they became superstars pretty immediately.
I'm going to answer that, but before I want to say, of all the questions that have been asked of me over all of these years about High School Musical, and I have met kids on every corner of the planet that have, and now parents that have children, and even I think their children. No one has ever said to me that before the movie came out, I was watching glimpses of it, and I was like, shivering with anticipation to find out what this was. You're the first person that's ever said that to me.
Wow,
I never thought it, but I never thought of it that way.
Because I remember, I immediately remember bringing back, I was sitting on my couch in my basement, and I was swinging my feet back and forth, pretending I was in the movie that I had not seen yet. So it was just, I feel like it almost felt like, a movie about kids in school, I can relate to this and I want to be one of them.
The Mickey Mouse Club did that for me. I used to stand in front of the TV, black and white, and there was a roll call at the beginning of the Mickey Mouse Club, and the cast would announce themselves, and they were in this line, and they'd peel off, Cubby, Tommy, Darlene, right? And I'd wait for the last one, and then I'd scream, Kenny! And at that moment, I was in the movie. I was in the screen, and I was dancing with them, and so many times kids had said to me that the attraction for them was that they didn't want to just, that they disappeared into it, that they kind of wished that they could just live in that world with those characters, that there was something there that they wanted to belong to.
Exactly.
That was deep. And that, look what it did, huh?
My first concert ever was High School Musical when they went into
our arena tour in the United States.
Which was super
we broke
exciting.
Miley Cyrus's. No, we broke Madonna's merchandising record. We sold out faster than any pop group
crazy.
ever that summer, and then broke the biggest merchandising record, and then asked us to go to Latin America and we were like, well, we're making another movie. We don't have time. And they were like, well, you can do it real quickly because you're going to play stadiums.
Yeah.
Did you know we played stadiums?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, bringing it back to returning for that second movie.
Yeah, the second movie, I think we were just so psyched up from what had occurred. I mean, we were just coming back now from, 88,000 people in Mexico, 2 nights in Buenos Aires, Argentina, 77,000 people in the largest soccer stadium in all of South America, 93,000 people in Sao Paulo, Brazil, kids singing in a language that wasn't their language and doing the choreography. We knew something had happened. And I think that we were just so happy to be back together again and believing in the good humor and fun of what 2 was.
Yes.
And just, I think, felt solid and that we kind of knew how to do this.
Yeah.
And not just do it again, just have some fun. And the big thing is I think that what makes High School Musical work and Descendants work and Cheetah Girls work was that I always hired actors that were partners and always let them know that I was looking forward to them bringing something to the party every day. Ashley Tisdale was the champion. The colorful imaginations, kids that came in and didn't totally depend on me to guide and steer and direct them, and that had ideas about their characters and about their relationships. And I think by involving their voices and their ideas, they more surrendered themselves, into the characters, because it was part of what they were bringing to it. And I think there's something there that lives under the magic of the dialogue and the singing and the dancing that helps these movies work.
Definitely.
And it's them. It's them.
It really was. And I remember exactly where I was too, seeing the third one in theaters, because every year I was in middle school for each movie. So it was like 6, 7, 8. And when I was graduating 8th grade, I went to go see High School Musical 3 with my best friends, and we were all going to different high schools, obviously as a lesser level, but we're sobbing at the end of the movie. We're like, oh my God, they're all graduating. They're going off in different places. We're all graduating. It was such a, it really is so ingrained in our core memory of these moments growing up. That movie we all got to go to the theaters for. What was the biggest change for you directing the first 2 and then directing, doing the last one?
Well, I had started in film, I started, first, in theater and then music video, and then concert and then TV. And then Jeffrey Katzenberg invited me to Disney. I did Newsies and Hocus Pocus. So it was a return to something that I really enjoyed, the big screen. And what was amazing too was there were some critics out there that just liked clobbering us, and they would literally compare High School Musical 1 to Singing in the Rain. Right. And I'm like, Gene had the entire breadth of my rehearsals and film schedule to work on one number that was for the golden years of Hollywood, where everything was put into building these gigantic, fantastic musicals. So when High School Musical opened on the big screen, it broke all records. It was the highest grossing musical in film history to open. It just was satisfying to me, it was whether they figured it out or not.
Right.
There's an audience, that just really, really wanted musical film. Yep. And that I was being given an opportunity to be able to provide that for them. And it wasn't maybe the sophistication of the Hollywood films of our past, but it was enough to excite and awaken young people to a medium that they hadn't had before.
Yep, absolutely. And it's so cool to watch it on the big screen. Like you said, you've been doing those big movies, whether it's musicals or something like Hocus Pocus that really is so ingrained in culture. Like every Halloween, you have to watch Hocus Pocus. It's a must. But it really is another movie of yours that has an incredible ensemble cast, right? So you've worked with all these amazing ensembles. What's the most difficult part of directing a big ensemble movie where there are so many characters?
Well, age sometimes because of schooling. So how you can schedule, Omri Katz, I don't know, was 16, right? All those kids were young. Thora Birch was 9, 10 years old. When we started High School Musical, Zach just turned 16 in rehearsals. Vanessa was 15.
Yep.
Corbin was 15.
Crazy.
And where you've got adult players and young characters. So scheduling is really tough. For me in the beginning, and until I was tried and true and where I started to get support and the kind of support, that turned me into a producer. Being able to create an environment for the cast to feel safe, protected, where they could take risks, make mistakes, not feel that they were going to be judged, keep fear out of the room. Those weren't things that I got to have immediately. I had to earn them. I had to be able to earn the method that I wanted to create in order to accomplish a great end result.
Right.
And when I finally was able to do that with the support, especially from Disney, things really started moving more smoothly. Newsies was really hard. All those children.
Right.
Yeah.
And not a lot of money.
Yeah.
True.
My first motion picture.
Yeah.
And so dealing with like tremendous amount of youth and so many hours. Got to stop.
Right. How
Can
am
I do
gonna
one
finish
more?
this?
No.
Right. So am I the director or am I a school principal?
Right. There's a lot going on. And then especially with the fame aspect of it all, when you reach the second, third film of High School Musical, you do Cheetah Girls 2. You did the Miley Cyrus Hannah Montana concert.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on. How were you able to keep these actors kind of, on lock, like on your set? Because the fame was so out of hand at one point.
I have to say, well, they stayed as long as we needed to, and happily, and engaged with one another and supportive of one another and not in competition with one another. And they knew that the only one to be in competition with was oneself, and that I could create an environment for them that enabled them to play and be kids and to have fun and to use their voices. So it was like summer camp.
More like a safe space for them. 'Cause
Yeah,
when
it
they
was
were
a
out
fun
on the
place
street,
to be. And for some of them that had worked before, this was a unique experience. They'd never been in a situation where the director said, "What do you think? Let's try it." Or can I do one more? Yep, let's go. One more. That was my relationship with them. And in the beginning, everybody wasn't so sure that was that was the way to do it. And then in the end, they just would see the dailies and go, and then people would say, how do you do this? How are you accomplishing this? How are you managing? What is your trick? What is your magic? And it was like incorporating everyone's voice, not leaving anyone out. No one's more important than anyone else. Creating a safe place, making it fun, making it joyful, so that you open your eyes and no matter how tired you are and exhausted you are, that it's worth getting up and going at it again because there's reason to be there. That's it. And I learned that from the great experiences that I had from the time I was young working as an actor and then as a choreographer working with like great directors like John Hughes and Francis Ford Coppola and Gene Kelly and Michael Jackson was the biggest inspiration for me in terms of creating an environment where everybody felt safe and where fear was not in the room.
You've worked with such a range. You mentioned Dirty Dancing in the beginning. Then you go High School Musical, all the Disney, and then Michael Jackson. What was you said creating a space like that, but what was the biggest thing that you learned from working with Michael Jackson?
The biggest thing. Well, one of the things that he would say to me every single time when he would invite me to come back and join him for something special, and I always said yes, which confused people, but it didn't matter because I always knew that every time I said yes to Michael, they came out of the other side of the experience having been somewhere I'd never been before as an artist. He would always start by saying, Kenny, we can't let fear into the room. Fear only gets into the way of creativity. We can't let fear into the room. And he was aware of it. He watched for it. He was more of a watchdog than I was, you know. And there would be times sometimes where we'd be in the midst of rehearsal and he'd go, Kenny, and he'd be on stage and I'd go, coming. You know, I'd go running across an arena or a stadium, wherever we were, and I'd cut backstage and up onto the stage, and he'd put his microphone down and he'd say, who's that standing at the back of the arena? Or who's that in the vomitorium way back there? You know, and Michael just didn't want creativity to be interrupted by bean counters. He didn't want the money people in the room going, you can't do that. We can't afford that. We can't. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, we had to balance a budget. He didn't really like to do that very much. but you know, he was a creative genius. And he just didn't want anything in the space when creation was
very aware of the surroundings at all times.
As a choreographer, what is the most validating thing you see from these fans? Because I'd imagine, you know, you're directing, everybody talks about the movies, loves it, but these are your moves that kids practice in the mirror. They learn. They want to master. We're watching the dance-alongs and and trying to do them all. Like, what was the most fulfilling thing as a choreographer with these young fans? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I have to credit all of my associates because as a producer and director and choreographer, you know, you need a team.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a very big part of the choreography on everything that I do, as everyone will tell you. But I have had incredible partners in Chucky Claypow and Bonnie Story for all the High School Musicals. And then Paul Becker, Tony Testa, and Jamal Sims for Descendants 1, 2, and 3. Chucky also did Cheetah Girls 2 with me.
Amazing.
Paul Becker did Julie and the Phantoms with me. So, you know, I have this posse and working with Travis Payne and Michael Jackson, you know, Travis is one of the brilliant, he was a Michael Jackson dancer and then Michael Jackson choreographer. Just associations with extraordinary talent and a great playfulness, that it's just an honor to see the choreography emulated and repeated and coming back at you.
Have you had fans? Have you had fans come up to you and be like, "Let me show you that we're all in this together.
Yeah, we could do this."
I was in Times Square a couple of years ago, and I heard screaming, and I turned around and I got like scared. You know, like high-pitched screaming, and I thought maybe something had happened. And then these girls started running, and I stepped back, and then they stopped in front of me, and they started screaming, Kenny, Kenny! And I was like, oh, my God, they're fans.
Yeah.
And they started talking to me, and I said, show me. And they, right there in Times Square, started doing choreography from High School Musical. Right there.
Yep.
I mean, move for move.
Everybody has to memorize to this day.
And you see it in commercials with football players doing Dirty Dancing choreography, and you see it.
They made a whole reality show about, you know, doing the moves.
Yeah. Did you choreograph the lift?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yes.
That is incredible. And I feel like a common theme that you've mentioned in this interview is that it's a lot of working with the talent, you know, so much playing around. Like if somebody says, hey, what about this move? Are you open to that as well? Like, you know, let's change it up for the ensemble.
Absolutely.
And especially working with like Michael Jackson, I'm sure had a lot of his own as well.
I was supervising choreographer, you know. In other words, Michael loved for me to say, I don't know if we need to go do that right now. He didn't call on me that much to come up with choreography. I did. I staged mostly staging. But throughout my whole career as a choreographer, you know, in the beginning, even in the beginning, I'd always have strong assistants. And never, I mean, Dirty Dancing, Miranda Garrison and Doriana Sanchez, and I remember all of them. And I was going to say that it is about collaboration, and not just in choreography, but in everything, in the music, developing the music ideas for all of the movies, going in and working with the producers in producing it, working with the writers on all the scripts, from Hocus Pocus and Newsies to, having the gift of being able to be involved in a world where everyone's open-minded. And where you can say, what if we did that instead? Or somebody else said, Kenny, have you thought about this? That I really think is what champions a great end result.
Yeah. What is your biggest piece of advice that you can give to these young kids that watch your movies? They loved High School Musical. They loved Descendants. They said, I want to be like those people. I want to star in these movies. I want to sing, dance, act, do the whole thing. What's your biggest tip to those young kids?
Okay. Well, I just did an interview for Inside Dance Magazine, and in the interview for Inside Dance Magazine, I call on all educators and dance teachers across America, and I say, please don't let somebody stand outside your doors that doesn't have enough money to come in and take a dance class. Please open your doors and make room for whomever needs to be in the mirror. Give the mirror give the mirror, away. And so I would just say, on the other side of that to the kids, education, that don't just turn on, TikTok and think that that's going to turn you into a dancer or a singer. Get education, study. And if you can't afford it, knock on doors and ask. And you may find someone like I did. My mom and dad could not afford to put me in dance school. I got a scholarship from the time I was 6 years old until I was 13 in a dance studio in Northern California. When I was 6 years old, I ran out into the middle of a dance floor that was all girls dancing in this dance studio. And my mom went to grab me, and the teacher said, leave him alone, leave him alone. And my mom stood back, and at the end of that class, my mom apologized, and she said, you don't have to apologize. Let him study with me. I would love he can come and study with me. And my mom said, we just came to watch. We can't afford that. And she said, you'll never have to pay a dime with your son in my class. And so I guess I call on the teachers out there in the world, educators out there in the world, to keep your eyes open. One quick story.
Yeah.
I went to a master class once to watch one of my friends teach, and it was in Hollywood, in North Hollywood, and it was a packed class of dancers. And after the class ended, it was a fantastic class. These doors opened up, and there was a parking lot outside. And so I went outside to catch my breath, just to get some fresh air. And I saw one of the kids that was in the class outside with a group of boys in the parking lot, teaching them what he had learned inside. So I watched, and then I walked over and I said, what's going on over here? And he said, I'm just teaching my posse the choreography that I just learned in there. And he said, we take turns because we can only afford to have one person go. So that's it. It's just find a way to educate yourself.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of teachers out there that will do that for people.
I know there are.
I went to acting classes as a kid, and I remember at the time I was going for a while paying, but then my dad had lost his job for a little bit. It was during that time, 2009, I think. And my parents told my teacher, hey, we can't afford this right now, whatever. My teacher was like, that's fine. Keep coming. Yeah. You're here for a reason. I open my door to people, and that's completely fine. So I think you're right. There are people out there who just have that passion to teach people and want them to be successful like you do.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it on the side, I'm on the board of counselors for the USC Kaufman School of Dance, the first 4-year college at USC in 40 years. Wow. And it's a 4-year college for dance. And I'm there mentoring, supporting, interacting with the staff and students. And we have to.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There are so many amazing teachers out there. There's so many special teachers out there.
They are everything. The innovation of dance and music and theater in the future is all about the teaching. And what the teachers instill in their pupils.
Exactly.
And kids are coming now out of high school with more talent. And have you ever watched the Jimmy Awards? every year they have these awards in New York City, which is a big high school musical awards.
Oh, no.
And they have kids from all across the United States that win contests in their regions come to Broadway for a week.
Oh,
There's over 100 of them.
Talk about this.
Yeah.
And the talent that's on the stage, Jimmy Needlander organization, the talent of high school kids, and I mean, some of them are 15, 16 years old, are ready for Broadway tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's educators. That's education.
The talent really is endless. And I feel like now, even with the internet, we see more and more of it just everywhere. And I mean, you have worked with, seriously, some of the most talented people that we have ever seen. And we are so thankful for all the work that you've done. And it really was such an honor to talk to you. And I feel like,
what a pleasure to be in your room. I've watched you. So it's just so, and followed you. And it's so cool to be in the room with you. Thank you.
We feel the same way.
Seriously, so excited to have you. Quickly, before we do go, we have to just clarify one thing. Because when we did talk about High School Musical on the show, a big question that was sent to us was, and we were like, I don't think we know the answer to this. What was the Spring Musicale actually about?
I want to know what you think.
I don't know what we even came up with.
Because we were talking about it and we were like, that was just the audition. That wasn't even the actual play.
Because people were like, how is Sharpay and Ryan's songs, would they be sung by the same character, like the same people that they were auditioning for? There's just different songs.
Were they just auditioning with those songs? What was the Spring Musicale?
Well, I think that Sharpay and Ryan had the idea that they were going to develop the Spring Musicale.
Right.
And so they didn't sing one of the songs from the Spring Musicale. They came with their own material.
Right.
True. They took creative liberty on that.
The Spring Musicale is the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
And Lucas Graybeal, by the way, and Ashley Tisdale, talk about creative partners and bringing something to the party every day. Wow. Working with them was a jubilee.
Yeah.
It was a jubilee.
I love it. So it's really, can we say it's up for interpretation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever you want the Spring Musicale to be.
All we know is that Kelsey was taking over the music.
Yes.
Once it mattered. But Kenny, thank you so much.
Really, what a pleasure to be in your space.
So happy to have you here. And July 31st is the official date of the 10th anniversary of Descendants.
And there's a tour out there right now that the Descendants are in.
Music with Descendants and Zombies.
And Zombies, which is going to be in New York City. What's going to be all over the country.
Yes.
Which I can't wait to see. I haven't seen it, but I've been catching glimpses. And Five's coming out. Descendants 5 next year. So
it's amazing.
Amazing.
And everyone can obviously watch Disney Plus when the anniversary comes around and make sure you're watching.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Kenny.
Kenny.
Thank you so much, Kenny.
Thanks, ladies.